Hello students, in this video we are going to be going over the Unit 4 practice test. Remember, you can take the practice test as many times as you want, and only your highest score will be counted. So, as you watch this video, I'm going to be completing all of the problems and showing you all of the work, so if you watch this video, you will know all of the answers. So, make sure that your work is correct when you submit your practice test, and make sure you include your work when you submit your practice test, because you have to show all of your work to get full credit. But this should be an easy A for everybody because I'm going to show you how to do all of the problems. And it's a 20-point assignment too, so that's great. You'll get a nice big A that's going to help boost your grades. So let's get into the practice test. This test is going to be all about inequalities and systems of inequalities. So in the first question, we want to figure out which of the following ordered pairs are solutions to the inequality x plus 2y is less than 3. In order to be a solution, it has to make the inequality true. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each ordered pair and plug them in to the inequality and see if it makes the statement true. So let's start with the first option. Our first option is 2, negative 2. Now, since this is an ordered pair, we know that this is x and this is y. So let's plug that into x plus 2y is less than 3, and we will see if it makes the statement true. So we'll put a 2 in for x and a negative 2 in for y. And now we need to simplify the left-hand side. We'll multiply the 2 times negative 2. That'll give us a negative 4. And then we'll add the 2 minus 4, which will give us negative 2, is less than 3. Is that true? Is negative 2 less than 3? Well, certainly 3 is going to be bigger than any negative number. So this gets a check mark. That is true. So that means that 2, negative 2 is a solution. So we would fill this box in. Now there could be more than one answer. You can check more than one answer. It says select all that apply. So we have to check the other 3 points as well. So I'm going to draw a line here. Oh, I forgot to write my inequality. All right, so now we're going to test the point 1, 1. This is our x, this is our y. And we're going to be plugging into our inequality, x plus 2y is less than 3. So in for x, I'm going to put the number 1. And in for y, I'm also going to put the number 1. And now we need to simplify the left-hand side. So multiply 2 times 1. That'll just give you 2. And then add 1 plus 2, which gives us 3. So when we plug in this point, we end up with the statement 3 is less than 3. Is that true? No, 3 is not less than 3. 3 is equal to 3. So if we had less than or equal to here, that would be true, but that's not what our inequality says. So this is actually a big no. So this is not going to be one of our solutions. Let's check our next point. This time we're plugging in negative 3, 2. So we'll just repeat the exact same process with different numbers this time. So in for x, we're going to put negative 3, and in for y, we're going to put 2. Now let's simplify. We'll multiply these together. That'll give us negative 3 plus 4, and negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. So we end up with the statement 1 is less than 3. That is true, so this is a solution. So we will fill this one in as well. And then last one, we need to check 4, 3, and we're plugging that again into x plus 2y is less than 3. So in for x, we're going to put a 4, and in for y, we're going to put a 3. That will simplify to 4 plus 6, which again simplifies to 10 is less than 3. Is that true? Is 10 less than 3? Kind of messed my 3 up there, so I'm going to rewrite it. No, 10 is not less than 3, so this is a no. So we found our 2 solutions for number 1, and that's all you need. Make sure you show your work on this one. For question 2, we are given an inequality, And we have to pick the correct graph that represents that inequality. So I'm going to scroll down to my quiz paper and rewrite my inequality. X is greater than or equal to -3. So on your quiz paper, there's some space to find M and B, but when you don't have a Y, we can't find those. So M and B are numbers that exist when you have Y equals mx plus b, or Y is less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, something like that. Our slope-intercept form requires a Y and an X. Well, we don't have that. So we don't have an M or a B. What we're looking at is a vertical line. Remember, vertical lines will look something like this, just X equals some number. Well, it's the same thing for an inequality. So I'm going to erase all this work. So all we're looking at here is a vertical line, and we have to figure out where on our graph it goes. Well, the point X is -3 is going to be important for us. So here's our x-axis. It's the one that goes left-right. Where is -3 on the x-axis? Well, that would be left 3. So this is where you find -3 on your x-axis. We're going to draw a vertical line that goes through this point. Now you must be careful. You have to look and pay attention to whether your line is going to be dotted or solid. And since we're dealing with a greater than or equal to symbols, it's that or equal to part, that's going to give us a solid line. So I'm going to draw a solid vertical line. And now we have to figure out what side to shade. It's a greater than or equal to. So that means we're going to shade in the greater direction. Well, if we go this way, we're going down toward the negatives. If we go this way, we're going up toward the positives. So to do greater than, we want to go up toward the positives. So we're going to shade this side of our graph. Beautiful shading, I know. So now we need to go figure out which one of the 4 options is correct. So we've got 4 graphs here. Notice that part A goes through the correct point. It's a vertical line that goes through -3, but it's dotted. So this actually is not going to be our answer because our graph had a solid line. B is not a vertical line. This goes through Y is -3, not X is -3. So this is definitely wrong. Part C goes through +3, not -3. I think I just circled the wrong one. That looks like 2. I can't see my numbers. They're so tiny. But anyway, regardless, that's wrong because it goes through +3. So it has to be D. It goes through -3. It's a solid line, and it shades to the right. So that's exactly like the graph that we drew below. So our answer here is D. For question 3, we're given a graph, and we want to find the inequality in the graph. Now look at your quiz paper. I give you a hint how to solve this problem. I tell you to identify M. Well, M means slope. In order to find the slope of a line, you have to pick 2 points. Any 2 good points that go through a clear intersection. So this one definitely looks like it crosses at a good spot. These kind of are in the middle, but this one looks like it crosses through a good spot. So let's find the M, the slope, between these 2 points. Slope is rise over run. Now rise can be negative. So notice here we're going down 2. So our rise is -2. And then our run is 3 to the right. So that would be 3. So we're going down 2, right 3, or -2/3. So that's our M. Now let's find our B. B is the y-intercept. So it's the point, it's the point where we cross the y-axis, which happens to be this point here that I've already selected. I've now colored it blue. So that point crosses the y-axis at +1. So now we need to write our inequality, which we should start out in the form y equals mx plus b. So if we do that, we'll write y equals -2/3 x plus 1. But notice I left my equals blank. We need to figure out what symbol to put in there because we want an inequality. So we need to pay attention to whether our line is solid or dotted, and in this case, it is solid. And we also need to figure out whether we're shading above or below, and in this case, it's below. The below shading gives us a less than, and the solid part of our line gives us an or equal to. So the symbol we're looking for here is a less than or equal to. And this is our inequality. So now let's look at our 4 answer choices. We need to make sure we choose a less than or equal to, so that takes out A and C. And then we have a negative 2/3 x, so that means that D is out because that's a positive 2/3 x. So it looks like our only remaining answer choice here is B, and B does in fact match what we did. So our answer for this question is B. Question number 4. We are given 4 graphs, and we're asked to identify which one represents this inequality. So first of all, I'm just going to rewrite the inequality. 5x minus 2y is greater than 4. I'll write that on my test paper. And then let's see what our test paper guides us to do. Remember, the test paper itself can actually have some hints as to how to get started on the problem. The first hint is rewrite the inequality in slope-intercept form. That means y equals mx plus b. Well, another way to say slope-intercept form is get y by itself on the left. So we need to get this y by itself on the left. So let me rewrite our equation here. We need to get this y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is undo the 5x, and that requires subtracting 5x from both sides. These cancel, so on the left I'll just have negative 2y is greater than, and on the right I have a minus 5x and a plus 4, but I can't put those together because they're not like terms. Still working toward getting that y by itself on the left, now I have to undo the negative 2. The negative 2 is currently being multiplied to the y. To undo multiplication, we have to divide both sides by negative 2. And I'm going to make a little note here. Important. When you divide by a negative, it requires you to reverse the inequality symbol. So for our next step, I'm going to have to write it off to the side because I made too many notes and I'm running out of room. When we divide negative 2 by negative 2, those disappear, so we'll have y. Our inequality symbol is going to reverse and go in the other direction, and then we have negative 5 over negative 2. Those negatives cancel. X, and then we have a positive 4 divided by a negative 2, so that'll give us a minus 2. So this is our inequality now. We can pretty easily, now that it's in slope-intercept form, we can pretty easily pick out our m and our b, so I'm going to write those here on the line, 5/2 and negative 2. That will help me draw my boundary line. We want to sketch a graph. So we start with our we start with our y-intercept, which is at negative 2. And then we use our slope to find our next point. A rise over run of 5 over 2 means we're going to go up 5 and a right 2, which will put us right about here. And then let me do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. And then I'll go down in the other direction. Just kind of continue my linear pattern in the other direction, so I've got plenty of points to see. It's time to draw our boundary line. Is our boundary line going to be dotted or solid? Well, that depends on this symbol right here. And because it's a less than symbol without an equal to component, we're going to need a dotted line or a dashed line. I'm going to do my best to draw a line through these points here, but not a solid line, a dotted one. And then we need to do our shading. It's a less than symbol. Less than means below. So we will shade below our boundary line. So that's this whole area over here. So now let's scroll up to our pictures and see if we can find the right one. Well, this picture here has a totally wrong slope, so that's not going to work. Let's take another look. We need a dotted line. So B is out, and looks like A is the wrong slope as well. So C is the only graph that has all the features of the graph that we drew. So here's our answer for this one. The big takeaway from this problem is remembering to reverse your inequality. That's a big deal. It will completely change your answer if you don't do that. Okay, so question 5. We're almost halfway done. Question 5 is a word problem, but there's very little we actually have to do here. Allie is working 2 after-school jobs to make extra money, and she wants to earn at least $210 a month. She makes $16 an hour as a babysitter, and she makes $9.50 an hour as a server serving coffee. Which of the following expressions represents the situation? Well, if she makes $16 per hour as a babysitter, that would be 16 times X. And then if she makes $9.50 an hour serving coffee, that would be 9.50Y. And when we add her two wages together, we want that to be at least $210 a month. It's this phrase here that I even bolded for you so it stands out, that really we have to think about. What does it mean to make at least $210 a month? That means her wages need to be greater than or equal to 210. So it's really this symbol that you're being tested over, because notice all of these problems all of these answers are the same as far as the numbers. It's really just the inequality symbols that we're choosing between. So we've chosen a greater than or equal to symbol to represent the phrase at least. So that would be C. Now notice your test paper has some other things down here. It says, if necessary, rewrite it in slope-intercept form. Well, that's not necessary in this problem. This problem does not say solve or find any kind of solution. So you won't have to do this step or this step for number 5 on the practice test. Question 6. We want to know which of the following ordered pairs are included in the solution given by the following system of inequalities. And we're given a lot of different points to choose from. So these are all possible answers. Now we don't have to really show any work on this problem. There's no algebra or calculations we have to do. It's really just going to be a matter of looking at our graph, finding each of these points, and then telling from the picture whether it's a solution or not. So let me write just a couple of notes here to remind us what we're looking for. To be a solution to a system, the point must be a solution to both inequalities. So if a point is only a solution to one of them, it's not a solution to the system. To be a solution to a system, it has to be a solution to both inequalities. So let's start with the first point. We've got 4, -1. That is located right here. Is this a solution to the red inequality? It sits right on that red line. Yes, it is a solution to the red inequality because points on a solid line are solutions. So the red line is solid, so this dot is a solution to the red. It is also a solution to the purple because it's right smack dab in the middle of the purple shading. So this point is a solution to both inequalities. Yes and yes. Now let's look at the next point. We'll use a different color. 1, 1. That would be right here. This one's a little tricky. It actually tripped up a lot of you guys, which is understandable because it's a tricky problem. So is this a solution to the red inequality? It sits right on that solid line. Yeah, solid line points are solutions. So this is a solution to the red inequality. Is it a solution to the purple inequality? No, it's on a dotted line for the purple. Dotted line points are not solutions. So even though this is a solution to the red, it's not a solution to the purple, which means it's not a solution to the system. So that's a no. The next point, we'll do in a different color, is 0, -3. That would be right here. Is this a solution to the red? Yeah, it's right in the middle of all that red shading, so this is a solution to red. Is it a solution to purple? No, for the same exact reason as the last point. It's on the dotted line, so it's not a solution to purple, which means it's not a solution to the system. Next point, -1, 1. That would be right here. This one is a solution to red, but it's definitely not a solution to purple. So this is not an answer. Then 2, 0. That would be 1, 2, 0. This point is inside the red shading, so it is a solution to red, and it's inside the purple shading, so it is a solution to purple. So this is a solution to both inequalities, which makes it a solution to the system. All right, last one, 3, 1. So 3, 1 is going to be located right here. This is not a solution to the red line. It is a solution to purple, but that doesn't matter because it has to be a solution to both. So our answer for this one, or this one is not an answer. So for question 6, only 2 of these points are solutions to the system. Question 7. Question 7 is going to require quite a bit of plugging and chugging. So first on your test paper, you're just going to rewrite the system of inequalities. Make sure you get both of them written down. This is just to make it easier for me to check your work. Now, I give you a hint on your test paper what you have to do here. Plug each answer choice in. This is very similar to the problem we did earlier, number 1. The only difference is now we have 2 equations instead of 1 equation to test. So, let's break this down. In order to be a solution to the system, it has to make both inequalities true. So our goal is actually to find which one of these is not a solution. So let's start with the point 1, 3. We'll plug it into 3x minus y is less than 4. We'll plug it in here first. So we get 3 times 1 minus 3, and we'll simplify this. It becomes 0 is less than 4. That is true. We have to test the other inequality as well, though, so now we'll plug it into x plus y is greater than or equal to 4. That'll be 1 plus 3 is greater than or equal to 4, which gives us 4 is greater than or equal to 4. 4 is equal to 4. So it is actually greater than or equal to itself. So this is a solution here. So 1, 3 is a solution to both of our inequalities, which means it is a solution to the system. Well, what we're trying to find is the point that's not a solution to the system. So since this is a solution, this is not going to be our answer. Let's move on and test the next point. 2, 2. First, we're going to plug it into 3x minus y is less than 4. That'll give us 6 minus 2 is less than 4, which is 4 is less than 4. Is that true? No. 4 is not less than 4, which means this is not a solution to the system. So we can actually stop here. We found the point that is not a solution to the system. Question 8, on some versions of the practice test, question 8 had a typo in it, and I will explain the typo when we get to that point. But if you tried to answer question 8 and you got a little frustrated because none of the answers on the, part A, B, C, or D, none of them matched what you got, That was a typo. Must have had something to do with where I pulled these problems from. But I've since gone in and changed it. So if you took your practice test a little later than everybody else, yours might not have had a typo. So just look for that when you get to the part where you're trying to answer question 8. So in this problem, we start with a graph, and we have to figure out what system of inequalities is represented by the graph. So we start from a picture, and then we're going to try to turn the picture into inequalities. So the steps are basically laid out for you on the test paper. It says, look at one of the boundary lines. And I guess first, let's just go with the red line first. So I'm going to look at the red line first. I need to identify the slope. So I'll pick 2 points. How about this one and this one? And I need to find my rise over run. Well, my rise goes down 1 and my run goes right 1. So it's -1 over 1, which simplifies. We can just write this as -1. Now my B is the point where my graph crosses the y-axis, which is this big red point right here. It crosses the y-axis at +3. Now we can write this in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. But instead of an equals, we need to come up with an inequality symbol that represents the red. So it is shaded above, so that's going to make it a greater than. And it's a dotted line, so it's just simply greater than. No, it's not a greater than or equal to, it's just greater than. All right, time to move on to our next line. Now we're going to look at green. So for the green line, we're going to pick 2 points. How about this point and this point? My rise over run is +1 over 1, so that just is 1. Now my B is where I cross the y-axis. That'll be at -1. So my inequality is y equals mx plus b, but in this case b is negative, so it's actually minus. Now let's come up with our inequality symbol. The green is shaded below, so that's going to be less than. And since it's a solid green line, there will also be an equal to component. So we've got y is less than or equal to 1x minus 1. So we might look down at our answer choices now and think, uh-oh, these look like they're in a different form. These all have the x and the y on the left, whereas my answers look a little different. I've got my x's over there on the right. So we might need to adjust our perspective here. So let's take part A. And I'm going to see if part A matches up with any of mine. So part A says x plus y is greater than 3. If I were to get y by itself on the left, I would subtract x from both sides. So that would be y is greater than -x plus 3. Well, that's looking promising because that's what I have here. Let's test the other side of it, which said x minus y is greater than or equal to 1. So now I'm looking at this one. If I subtract x from both sides, I get -y is greater than or equal to -x plus 1. And then I still have to get that y completely by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by -1. So that'll give me a positive y, a positive x, and a -1. Remember, when you divide by a negative, you have to reverse the inequality symbol. So this becomes a less than or equal to. And look, this is the same as what we have. So actually, I've been able to determine that part A is my answer before I even have to do all of this work with B or C or D. So A is going to be our answer here. Now, if you took your practice test a few days ago, there was a typo right here. On the original practice test, this symbol was backward. It should not have been. I think somebody might have accidentally made this mistake and forgot to turn it around. So If you're taking an older version of the practice test, I will go ahead and tell you the answer is A. The answer will always be A to this problem. And I still need to see your work, but your symbol might be backward. Just go ahead and select A anyway, and make sure you show your work on this problem. Don't just select A because I told you to. I want to see your steps for solving. So, A, and moving on. 2 problems left. For question 9, we start with an inequality and we want to draw a graph. So first, I'm just going to rewrite my inequality. X minus 2y is greater than 4, and I've got a second one here. 3x plus y is less than 5. Let's look at the first one. The instructions on our test paper kind of give us a hint. We want to rewrite it in slope-intercept form, which means get y by itself on the left. So first, we're going to subtract x from both sides. That'll give us negative 2y is greater than negative x plus 4. Then we want to divide both sides by negative 2. What's about to happen here? We're dividing by a negative. We have to reverse the inequality. So our next line will be y is reverse the inequality. Y is less than positive 1 over 2x minus 2. Then it's pretty easy to identify our m and our b. Our m is 1/2, our b is negative 2. Let's go ahead and draw this. If we have a b of negative 2, that's here, and an m of 1/2, that's up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. I'm going to draw quite a few points here to make it very clear where my line should go. And we always, when we go to shade, we look at what our symbol ended up as, not what it started as, what it ended up as. This is a less than symbol, so it's dotted. And we're shading below, so we'll shade down here. Now I'm going to shade kind of lightly because we still have a second inequality to deal with. So with this second inequality, again, we're going to rewrite it in slope-intercept form. So we start by getting y by itself on the left, which means I have to subtract 3x from both sides. That's going to give me y is less than negative 3x plus 5. Oh, we're already done with that one. That was quick. M is negative 3, b is 5. Let's draw. If our y-intercept is positive 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's right here. And if our slope is negative 3, we could just as easily call that negative 3 over 1. We would go down 3, right 1. Down 3, right 1. Do that a few more times. And this also is going to be a dotted line because it's a less than symbol. And since it is less than, we're going to shade below. So below the line, the space where our two shadings line up or intersect, the place where both of our graphs are shaded, both of our boundary line shading is down here. So this should be our kind of darker shaded region. So let's try to figure out where on the graph or which one of these options matches up with our picture. Just visually looking at these, notice that nothing over in this area is shaded, so this is wrong, this is wrong. We're looking at either A or B, and my two lines intersect right here, which is this point, so it looks like our answer has to be B. So we'll fill that in, B for our answer for number 9. Moving on to our final question. This is a word problem. Joy is a farmer with a 120-acre farm, and she wants to plant some of those acres with corn and some of those acres with soybeans. So before I continue, I'm going to actually pause here. This first sentence actually gives us our first inequality. X is the number of acres she plants with corn, and Y is the number of acres she plants with soybeans. Jill only has 120 acres, so X plus Y has to be less than or equal to 120. So we can make that our first inequality. And even though it might seem simple when I'm explaining it, that's usually the harder one to come up with because there's so little information here, you kind of have to piece that one together on your own. The next sentence gives us some good stuff. The cost of planting corn is $390 per acre. That's 390x. And the cost of planting soybeans is $130 per acre. So then 130y. And she can only spend at most $26,000. So these two costs have to be less than or equal to $26,000. So we've written our two inequalities. The question asks us to pick which graph best represents the situation. So what we're going to do over here on our test paper is actually draw a graph from these two inequalities. So we've got a hint. We want to rewrite the inequalities in slope-intercept form. We should be used to this by now. We have x plus y is less than or equal to 120. That's really sloppy. I'm going to try that again. We've got x plus y is less than or equal to 120. We need to get y by itself on the left. So we'll subtract x from both sides. So there is our first inequality. Our m, of course, is -1. There's no 1 there, but we can imagine. And our b is 120. Now let's look at our second inequality, which is 390x plus 130y is less than or equal to 26,000. Now this one's going to require a calculator for sure. To get the y by itself, we have to subtract 390x from both sides. So that'll leave us with 130y is less than or equal to -390x plus 26,000. And calculator time. We'll divide both sides by 130, which will give us y less than or equal to -3x plus, let's see, 200? I certainly hope that's right. I don't happen to have a calculator on me, so I'm trying to do these in my head. Okay, so now we know our m and our b of our second inequality. That's -3 and 200 respectively. Time to draw. So my graph hasn't been labeled, so I'm going to label it. Let's see, we need to go to about 200. So we'll call this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll call that 200. So that'll make this 100. We can split it up a little bit. So each one of my units is 25. So we'll call that 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, etc. Okay, so I'm only making sure my scale is appropriate so that when I go to draw my graph, everything fits on it. And it's usually easiest if you make sure the scale on the y-axis matches the scale on the left or on the x-axis. So for my blue line, my b value is 120. So that would be about here. And then my slope is -1/1. So down 1, right 1. Down 1, right 1. So we're going about like this. Somewhere like that. And we need a solid line because it's less than or equal to. And we're going to shade this one below. I'm going to do this very lightly because I don't know what kind of shading we're going to need for the red line. So for the red line, we're going to start at a y-intercept of 200, and this one has a slope of -3 over 1. So that's down 3, right 1, down 3, right 1. And this one again is going to be a solid line. And since it's a less than or equal to, we're going to shade below the line. So that's here and here. Now, only the area where both colors are shaded are going to be in our solution set. So that's this area right down here. So now let's see, looking at the graph, which one of these is correct? Well, A is obviously out. C has an x-intercept at like 200. That's definitely not right because ours is at about 120. So this is not going to work. Again, B has the same problem. This one crosses over here when it really should cross like all the way down here somewhere. I think I'm having trouble seeing my own numbers. So it looks like our answer has to be D. And you can do that by looking at so many points. Like our red line crosses at 200, which is right here. So that looks good. These two lines intersect at about 75, 80 maybe. Yep, that looks like 80. Yeah, so D is looking really good based on what we drew. And there's your answer. All right, I know this has been a long video, but I really wanted to take my time with these problems because this practice test is going to prepare you to do really well on the actual test. So hopefully all of these problems make sense now. But if you still need help or you have any questions about any of these problems, please let me know in class or you can send me an email. So good luck with your test prep, and I hope everybody crushes the exam.